So a few months ago, I showed the entire world how to turn their soil into nanocarbon alloy in Astroneer. That is the most dramatic intro I've ever done. Anyways, it's pretty obvious why that video was successful. Soil is cheap, and nanocarbon alloy is not cheap. And we turned soil into nanocarbon alloy using this giant contraption you can see right here behind me. And so the reason we're making another video today is for the obvious reason this contraption had sort of issue. You know, it's kind of expensive. Not everyone wants to craft this, not everyone can craft this because they're still in the early game, and so until you get to the late game, you need a cheaper solution to automatically craft nanocarbon alloy. And so, you know, of course, unfortunately, since we are doing a cheaper contraption, it's not going to turn soil into nanocarbon alloy, it's just going to craft it automatically with the resources that you need to craft it. If you are in the late game, however, and you haven't seen the other video I was talking about, you can find it in the description or right up here at the top right. Actually, probably just the top right. I'm not going to remember to put it in the description. It's at the top right of the screen right now if you want to see that video. It only takes 6.5 soil canisters full of soil to get a nanocarbon alloy with this here contraption behind me. So if you are in the late game, this is your best choice. But if you're not in the late game, watch this video and this will be your next best thing until you can craft this behind me. And you can use what I'm making today in this video to craft this one behind me later on because it's basically just part of the one behind me. And you just kind of have to add on to it to get the rest. Anyways, my children, the contraption you see behind me is the one we are going to be building in today's video. And as you can see, it's a lot cheaper than the other one. The most expensive thing in this contraption is the chemistry lab, if you don't count the RTGs back there. You don't have to use RTGs to power it, but it's way cheaper. It is. It's not very expensive at all to craft this, even though there's a lot of stuff here. None of this stuff is expensive, so don't get scared. Don't get overwhelmed. It'll be alright. But earlier I said we were going to be turning the basic resources into nanocarbon alloy, which again just means things that you don't need the chemistry lab to make because the entire contraption is chemistry labs making stuff for you. So that just means the things you get out of the ground, the things you get from the atmospheric condenser. Those are the resources that we're going to be putting into this so that we can get nanocarbon alloy at the very end. And there are 9 such resources. There are 9 resources that you will need in order to make nanocarbon alloy. I'm going to be putting it on the screen right now because if I list them off vocally, that's just going to be annoying. But I will say one thing real quick, and that's that we have ammonium listed twice because you need twice as much ammonium. And so as you can see right here, I also have ammonium like as a platform here with double auto arms as well. I have it twice in every sense. But yes, I'm just going to go ahead and explain real quick what's going on here. But first, I forgot I was going to say, so I have to look at my notes. Ah, yes, you need 65 units of power a second to power this thing at max speed. But that's why we're not going to power this thing fully, actually. We're not going to power it fully. We're going to put only 32 units of power a second into this because it's still pretty fast with just 32 units of power a second. Which brings us to the resource list, which I'm going to put on screen now. And after after I give you a few seconds here to look at that, because I don't want to make you pause the video. I'm not one of those nerds. Then we're going to talk about how this thing works and how you can put it together yourself. And really, it's sort of common sense once you catch on to how this works. So I probably won't have to show you the entire thing. You can probably just, like, give up on watching this video halfway through me explaining it, which is completely fine, you know? Alright, so basically what I have here is, as I said earlier, there are 9 basic recipes that go into nanocarbon alloy. So I have 9 platforms that I have here going into the system, and each of these platforms is dedicated to a single resource that we need to craft nanocarbon alloy. Pretty basic, right? So, I mean, I'm just going to put the things on the platforms here by using resource canisters. So, what this basically means is if I have an entire resource canister full of every nanocarbon alloy recipe, which is 32 items, then I will get 32 nanocarbon alloy in the end, which is why you want each resource to have its own platform, which is also why you want ammonium to have 2 platforms to itself, because you need 2 resource canisters, since you need twice as much, in order to get a resource canister full of nanocarbon at the end. I hope this makes sense, because my throat's sore, so I'm not going to be re-explaining any of this stuff. But yes, that's the way I've decided to do this. I just have a resource canister full of everything I need for nanocarbon alloy, and I'm just going to put them on here like this, which in the early game might be the way you want to do this too. It might be the best way for you to go about crafting nanocarbon alloy. Just automate the crafting and don't automate anything regarding the smelting or the gathering of the resources and such. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and put a visual chart on screen now again because I would rather make a visual chart that makes things easier to understand than have to actually explain things in a way that makes them easier to understand. We are taking these basic resources and we are making alloys that make other alloys, and eventually we end up with nanocarbon alloy at the end. So that's what we're doing. We're just going across here, and each of these resources, they go in to make their corresponding alloys. So the order at which I put these on, like we have iron, then we have carbon, then we have argon, that matters. It very matters because these have to be together, because these three things make steel, for example. You see what I'm saying? So these are grouped up by what they make, and eventually they all merge into one path at the back where nanocarbon alloy is crafted. And as I said earlier, this is fairly intuitive, right? I don't have to show you every single step of this in great detail because it just makes sense how it works. Right here, we have the recipes for steel. They go into a chemistry lab that makes steel. So that's iron, carbon, and argon right here going to make steel. Then we move on, and we ignore this one for now because that's not technically yet relevant to the, thinking from the bottom up. Because, now we have steel covered, right? So that's steel. We're going to move on to the next thing, which would be titanium alloy. And titanium alloy takes two basic resources, that being nitrogen and titanium. But then it takes an alloy. So that's why we put in, right here, we just put in titanium and nitrogen. But we need... What do we need? We need graphene as well, which is not a basic resource. So that's not over here with these. It is another alloy, so it comes from another chemistry lab, which is this one. Which takes, graphene takes graphite, and that's a basic resource. So it comes in from over here. But I think you see where this is going. We're taking the alloys down to their basic levels. Like right here, we got graphite, a basic thing. But we also need hydrazine, and it's not a basic resource. So we need another chemistry lab over here. And then, so obviously, we are making hydrazine. And that is where it gets down to the basic resources at the most basic level, where we need ammoniums and hydrogen, which makes that. And everything eventually merges over here to the titanium alloy we was originally trying to craft. And then back here, as we're kind of getting close to wrapping things up, actually very close to wrapping things up, it's very basic, of course. I said we was going to ignore this earlier. That's helium. It goes straight to the back because it's needed for nanocarbon alloy itself. Right here, we need helium, titanium alloy, and steel. And these are all things we have because helium is a basic resource. That's why it's in the main line of basic resources in the front. And titanium alloy and steel are the other things that I elaborately explained the crafting process of. Honestly, if you're experienced in Astroneer at all, you're probably not even still watching because, as I said before, intuitive. I don't really have to explain this in great detail because it's fairly easy to understand just by logic. This video was weird because I didn't do I just kind of winged it. I wung it. I don't know what the past tense of wing is, but I do know that I need to stop. Okay, I need to stop the video because I'm rambling, and I ramble all the time. It has to stop. It has to stop.